Snow has a way of erasing things. Tracks, paths, familiar shapes, all swallowed in a slow, steady drift that rebuilds the world inch by inch. You learned that on the winter march that should have been easy, the one that turned into a lesson about how silence can be louder than artillery. It began at dawn, though you wouldn't have known it by the sky. The clouds hung so low they felt like the roof of a room you couldn't stand up straight in. Everything was white except the men. Dark coats, frostbitten scarves, rifles slung low to save energy, boots leaving shallow prints that filled in almost as soon as they appeared. Your squad had been ordered to link up with a supply unit near a forest clearing 2 kilometers north. A simple task, according to the lieutenant. Walk, keep formation, don't stop unless absolutely necessary. The cold would punish hesitation harder than any officer could. The first kilometer passed without incident. Your breath froze in your mustache, your eyelashes stuck together when you blinked. The wind scraped across the open field like a dull blade. No one spoke. Cold hates conversation. It steals the air from your throat, makes you pick your words carefully, spend them like rations. You walked behind Fisher, a tall man who used to work in a factory before the war. He walked with the kind of careful steps that made you trust him, always looking forward, checking the ground, keeping his rifle close to the body to protect the mechanism from frost. He looked back once. "All good?" he murmured. You nodded. He didn't ask again. It was the kind of march where questions felt like a waste of heat. About 30 minutes in, the wind shifted. Hard, sudden, like someone had opened a giant door. Snow began to fall sideways. Your squad tightened instinctively. Scarves rose higher over faces. Eyes narrowed to slits. The lieutenant raised a hand, but the wind swallowed his voice. He pointed left, toward what should have been the tree line emerging through the storm. But the tree line never appeared. Only more white, more wind, more shapes that dissolved the moment you tried to focus on them. Fisher slowed down. "Lieutenant," he shouted, forcing his voice through the gale, "we're drifting." "Hold formation," the lieutenant yelled back. But formation meant nothing when you couldn't see farther than a dozen paces. You kept walking. Left boot, right boot. A rhythm to stay sane. After a while, you didn't know if it was 10 minutes or an hour. The wind eased, as if taking a breath. A fog settled between gusts, thick as wool. Shapes appeared. Dark shapes, close ones. Trees. Finally. You felt relief bloom in your chest. A forest meant shelter. A forest meant direction. A forest meant you hadn't wandered into the endless fields where men froze standing up. The squad slowed near the first line of trees. The bark was white with frost, branches heavy with ice, snow piled high around the roots. Something felt off. You didn't know what at first. Everything looked right, and yet your gut tightened as if you were approaching a room you'd once lived in but no longer trusted. Fisher stopped abruptly. "These aren't the same trees," he said. The lieutenant frowned. "What do you mean?" Fisher touched the bark with his glove. "These aren't from the north slope. Too thin, too close together." The lieutenant glanced at the map, then at the shapes around you. "We stayed straight," he said. "Not in this storm," Fisher replied quietly. Men shuffled, boots crunched, someone coughed hoarsely. You realized your fingers had gone numb. The lieutenant motioned the squad into a loose circle. 5 minutes, warm hands, no fires. You sat on a fallen branch, gloves pressed under your armpits. Fisher joined you, blowing into his hands. "Seen this before?" you asked. He shook his head. "But my father told me stories. Marches in winter where the land changed under your feet. That's superstition. So is ignoring your instincts." You wanted to argue, but the wind picked up again. Hard, sharp, enough to force you to stand. "Move," the lieutenant ordered. You followed. The forest thickened. The path became uneven, half hiding under drifts that looked shallow but weren't. Twice you sank knee-deep, once almost waist-deep. Men cursed through clenched teeth. Then came the sound. A low groan, wood bending, snow cracking overhead. Everyone froze. A heartbeat later, a large branch snapped and fell somewhere behind you with a muffled thud. Snow sprayed the air like a shaken blanket. "Keep moving," Fisher whispered. "This place isn't safe." You wanted to ask what that meant, but then you heard it too. Not the wind, not a branch, something else, deeper, heavier. A rumble that vibrated through the frozen ground. You exchanged glances. "Artillery?" someone asked. "No echo," Fisher said. "Too close." The lieutenant raised a hand. "Halt." Everyone crouched slightly, rifles up, breath sharp and fast. The rumble came again, closer, then stopped suddenly, as if it had sunk into the snow. The forest fell silent, too silent. You felt your pulse in your tongue. "Lieutenant," Fisher said, voice low and steady, "we're not where we think we are. What do you suggest?" "Backtrack until we hit open ground, then reorient." The lieutenant hesitated, pride wrestling with logic. Then he nodded. "Turn around," he said, "single file, slow." You exhaled with relief. You walked. 10 meters. 20. 30. Then someone said, "Sir, the tracks." You looked down. Your tracks were gone. Completely. Every print filled. Every path erased. You stood in untouched snow. A murmur moved through the squad. Fear, anger, disbelief. "Storm's covering them fast," the lieutenant said, forcing calm. "Stay tight. Keep heading south." South. South meant survival. South meant open field. South meant getting out of this maze. You turned. Another gust hit. Snow swirled. Trees blurred. Men became shadows. You reached out to keep a hand on Fisher's shoulder. You touched nothing. "Fisher!" you shouted. No answer. Panic clawed your throat. "Lieutenant!" No answer. The wind roared like a mouth closing. You spun left, then right. White. Everything white. A world erased. Your chest tightened. Your breath turned sharp. Your boots sank deeper, or maybe your legs weakened. Then the rumble came again. Closer. Directly beneath your feet. You dropped to one knee automatically, pressing a gloved hand into the snow. Vibration. Rhythmic. Mechanical. You dug. Fast. Desperate. Like peeling away a layer from something you weren't sure you should touch. Your glove hit metal. Cold. Flat. Curved. You scraped more snow away. A helmet. Not yours. Not from your side. Frozen into the earth. You looked around in slow horror. Shadows rose behind the fog. Not men, not trees, but shapes stuck half-buried under drifts. A field of the dead, months old, preserved by cold, hidden by storms. You realized the truth. You hadn't drifted into unknown forest. You had walked onto a forgotten battlefield. A place no one had marked on any map. A place both armies avoided. A place swallowed every winter and revealed every spring. A place you were never meant to find. The wind shifted again. The fog thinned. And through the wall of white, you saw silhouettes, your own squad, moving slowly, heads down, unaware of what they were walking across. You forced yourself up. You ran, boots slipping, heart hammering, breath burning. "Stop!" you shouted. "Don't move!" They turned. You pointed to the ground, to the helmets, to the half-buried shapes. Recognition hit them like cold steel. The lieutenant swore under his breath. Fisher crossed himself once, then hid the gesture. "Get us out," the lieutenant said quietly. Fisher nodded. "Follow me." He didn't look at the map. He trusted something older. The way wind carried, the slope of the ground beneath snow, the scent of open plains versus deep woods. You followed. Minutes stretched like hours. Boots found firmer ground. Trees thinned. Air cleared. And then, at last, you saw it. Open field. Flat. White. But mercifully empty. You stumbled out of the tree line with the others. No one spoke. No one needed to. Behind you, the forest stood silent, hiding its graveyard once more. Fisher stopped beside you. "This road," he said softly, "wasn't on any map." You nodded. It was never meant to be. You walked on, leaving behind the white place that almost kept you.